Good evening and welcome to this evening's Development Management Committee meeting. I am Joan Grime, Councillor for Culcheth, Glaisbury and Croft, and I will be chairing the meeting. Due to the current coronavirus pandemic, the Council have taken steps to follow restrictions and health guidance in relation to social distancing, whilst balancing the needs of carrying out our regulatory functions. This is the 11th meeting of this committee that is being held remotely. The agenda for the meeting will run as per the usual format. The meeting is being broadcast live to the public, who have had the opportunity to make written representations which have been distributed to members. However, there will be no input from the public during the meeting, and this is in line with the Coronavirus Act of 2020, Section 78. Present at the meeting, at the moment there are 8 elected borough councillors plus officers of Warrington Borough Council. I'll now ask all those present to introduce themselves. Will councillors also confirm that they have received the agenda and reports on the applications and have a copy in front of them? An update report has also been circulated this afternoon and available for members to view. Councillors, can I ask you to introduce yourself? Councillor Barr.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Barr. I represent Lim North and Thelwall. I have all the committee papers and have seen the updates that have arrived since.
Thank you. Councillor Carey.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Peter Carey, representing Fairfield and Howley Ward. I've got the agenda in front of me and I've received all the updates. Thank you.
Councillor Friend.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Councillor Graham Friend, representing Poulton North. I have all the papers in front of me and I've read and understood them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Councillor Les Morgan, Latchford West. I have all the documentation in front of me and it's all understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mundry.
Yes, Councillor Karen Mundry, Latchford East. I have all the documents in front of me and read all the updates. Thank you.
Councillor Parish.
Good evening, Councillor Steve Parish. I represent Chapelford and Old Hall, and I've read and received, not necessarily in that order, received and read all the papers.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Councillor Steve Wright, UC Whitecross, received all the papers and read and understood. Got them in front of me.
Thank you. I will also ask the officers to introduce themselves. Democratic Services, Abigail. Abigail, can you introduce yourself to the meeting?
Hi, good evening, Chair. Abigail Howell, Democratic Services.
Thank you. Legal Services, Paul.
Yes, my name is Paul Clisby and I am a solicitor from the Legal Services Department.
Thank you. Development Manager, Nikki.
Thank you, Chair. Nikki Gallagher, Development Manager.
Transport, Mike.
Thanks, Chair. Mike Taylor, Highways Development Control.
Right, thank you. Agenda item 1 is apologies. Have we received any apologies apart from Councillor Wheeler, who we're still waiting for, if she can get in touch with us?
Yes, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Marr.
Thank you. Declarations of interest is item 2. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any disclosable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest which they have in any item of business on the agenda no later than when the item is reached. Councillor Barr.
Yes, I'd like Mr. Clisby's advice, please. I have been in touch with the rugby club prior to this application, prior to their previous major application. On this occasion, the residents who are objecting have not approached me, so I feel it's appropriate for me to stand down for item for item 1.
Okay. Any comments, Paul?
Well, from what Councillor Barr has said, I don't understand that he's precluded from taking part in the meeting, but of course it is a matter for himself if he does want to, if he feels he wants to step down on this particular occasion so that he can pursue, because of his previous involvements or because he wants to pursue a particular line as a non-member of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
If I don't speak and don't vote, can I listen to my colleagues?
Paul?
Yes, certainly. The only time when a member has to remove themselves from the room is when they have a disclosable pecuniary interest.
I have no such interest, so I will not be taking part in that item, but I will be present.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So have you got that, Abigail, that Councillor Barr will not be voting on this issue? Right, Councillor Carey, have you any declarations of interest? Right.
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Friend?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Councillor Mundry?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Councillor Parish?
No, no interest to declare.
Councillor Wright?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Okay. I also have no disclosable interest in any item. Okay, the minutes of the last meeting, which have been circulated to you. Has any member seen a problem with the minutes of the meeting on the 30th of September? Any problems or difficulties? Right, thank you. I confirm that the minutes of the DMC meeting held on the 30th of September 2020 are a correct record. We go on to the planning applications, and item number 1 is application number 2020-37271. That is Lymm Rugby Football Club, Crouchley Lane, Lymm, WA130AT. This is full planning, a proposed change of use for external storage of caravans for an 18th month temporary period. The recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. I invite the development manager to present a report.
Thank you, Chair. So the application slide you can see on the plan in front of you there consists of 2 areas of hard standing to the north and the south of a walled garden within the existing rugby club complex. Area A, as it's referred to in the report, is to the north, as a permeable hard surface uses incidental space at the moment, and Area B is to the south and is also hard surfaced and has planning permission for overspill car parking associated with the facility. The application, as you've just said there, Chair, proposes temporary storage for 75 caravans. It's proposed that 35 of these will be accommodated within the site to the north, with a further 40 to the south. To facilitate the development, Lymm Rugby Club has partnered with Ravenbank Caravans, and this is relevant to the consideration of this application insofar as it relates to their operational management plan of the site, and we'll come on to that later. The application is before members tonight due to an objection that's been received from Lymm Parish Council on the basis of highway safety. Representations have also been received from 2 local addresses as a result of publicity given to the application on the basis of the principle of development, security, residential amenity and traffic and highway safety, and these are details within section 3 of your report. As members are aware, all applications for planning permission must be determined in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise, and the relevant core strategy policies in this instance are contained within section 7 of your report for information. The key issues in relation to this application are the principle of the development in Greenbelt, highway matters and residential amenity, and I'll take each of these in turn. First of all, in relation to the principle of the development in the Greenbelt, it's considered that pro-storage of caravans and camper vans would reduce the openness of the Greenbelt, and therefore the proposal is inappropriate. and therefore is by definition is harmful to the green belt in national and local planning policy terms. However, the impact of the openness is considered to be limited in terms of its temporary nature, in terms of the planning history of the site, and the wider considerations of what may come forward in the future based on the planning history as detailed within the report, and also its reversibility and the fact that it uses brownfield land within the existing body of the rugby club itself. Nonetheless, harm resulting from the development and the visual and spatial openness of the green belt is recognised, and albeit limited, it's necessary to consider the very special circumstances associated with the development, which needs to be taken into account in the overall planning balance. The club has identified the financial circumstances as very special circumstances which they would like us to consider in this instance, and the financial position has changed within the last 6-7 months as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions, and the details associated with the impacts on their finances are contained within paragraph 9.13 of your report. Quite a high level of detail that they've been very open in sharing with us. This demonstrates a significant forecast loss for the current financial year, and although this in itself is given little weight in terms of very special circumstances, the implications of this in terms of the community impact is attributed greater weight. The club is considered to be an asset to the local community, and it has a membership of over 1,000 individuals. It promotes a number of sporting activities in addition to rugby, including squash and hockey, and we know that in future, which we'll come on to later, there's also plans for it to become a tennis specialist centre as well. Given the general support of the objective of sustaining and encouraging outdoor sport and recreation in local and national planning policy and the health and wellbeing agenda generally, we give a significant weight to this principle within the general planning balance, and we do perceive this as a very special circumstances at which we can attribute significant weight. As a general principle, the important role that established clubs play in supporting competitive sports at grassroots level and in encouraging participation and social membership is recognised and is supported. I mentioned there earlier, and it's detailed within the planning history section of the report, that there has been an application in the past for the site for the comprehensive redevelopment of the rugby club, and that was approved under planning permission 2016-28521. And again, the details are relating to that contained within section 6 of the report. Essentially, this served to enhance the facilities, the community facilities that can be provided at the site. And within this permission, there was secured a community use agreement, which sets out the terms in which the proposed new sport and social facilities will be made available to the wider community. The financial failure of the club would jeopardise the delivery of these measures and result in significant community benefits not being delivered. In addition to the loss of the improved sporting facilities, it's material to consider that permission also would deliver 14 dwellings and so contribute to the council's 5-year housing land supply and potentially affordable housing, although the details of that would be established at a later date. The further very special circumstances that the applicant wanted to put forward was the position of Raven Bank caravans, and again this is detailed in the report. Essentially, there's been an upsurge in the requirements for storage, caravan storage as a result of COVID-19. I think that's generally recognised as a national trend, that there's been less caravans out and about and more people purchasing. So there is a driver for this from Raven Bank Caravans perspective, and whilst the position of Raven Bank Caravans is understood as detailed in the report, it's concluded that this wouldn't amount to very special circumstances in this instance and wouldn't necessarily mean that we would support development of this type within the green belt. However, on balance, the proposal represents, whilst the proposal represents inappropriate development within the green belt, very special circumstances have been identified that can be given significant weight in terms of the community benefits, and these need to be considered in the overall planning balance. Turning now to highways matters, and in terms of the highways, the potential impact on highways, taking into account the local highway network, the anticipated frequency of vehicle movements, as well as the commitment to ensure that such vehicle movements avoid times when there are sporting activities taking place, The highway's access is considered capable of being accommodated safely as the proposal is set out, and therefore it's considered acceptable in policy terms. We've also, related to this is the impacts on residential amenity, and the impact on residential amenity from this particular scheme is generally associated with the comings and goings from the site. The applicant has submitted a site management plan, and this details actions that would be imposed through condition, which would minimise the impacts of these, and these minimise the impacts of too comings and goings, and these are detailed within paragraph 9.39 of your report. There's also a further condition which would confine the movement of caravans and camper vans in and out of the site to between the hours of 7:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night and at no other times. And on that basis, it's considered that there were no detrimental impact to neighbouring residential amenity. To conclude then, the proposed development is inappropriate in the green belt and is therefore by definition harmful. Such development should not be approved except in very special circumstances, and very special circumstances will not exist unless the potential harm to the green belt by reason of inappropriateness and any other harm resulting from the proposal is clearly outweighed by other considerations. The potential benefits of the proposal, namely short-term financial support to ensure that the rugby club can continue to provide significant longer-term public benefits, which is a considerable health and social benefit for the local area, is considered to outweigh harm to the green belt. The application would not therefore result in significant. The application would also not result in significant adverse impacts on amenity, highway safety or heritage assets, and it's therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki. I can confirm that we have received no additional written representations about this application. So I'll go straight on to invite comments and questions from members to officers in turn, starting with Councillor Wright.
Yes, Chair. Hello. Listen to what Nikki said, read the report. I think the residents are concerned about the traffic movements and things like the I have been down there on occasion when they've had open days and things, and that road is not the best of access roads, I seem to remember. I was certain that this will not have a detrimental effect on the road network there, and the residents who are saying that it may well do with the caravans going up and down. So are we absolutely sure that there won't be a detriment, a real harm caused by that to the residents?
Mike, can you answer that?
First one, yep.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There's probably two elements to that. One, Nikki's touched on it in terms of the impact on residential amenity, which can be controlled in respect of movements between certain hours, and the management plan that's been submitted with part of the application. But from when we've looked at it from a highways operational aspect, it's although the number 75 caravans may be, a headline figure, may cause some alarm, it's important to focus that it's a storage facility. It's not an operational facility where there's a lot of come and goings all the time. And the storage facilities for caravans, typically the movements are obviously seasonal, and the periodical through that season. Now, we know Crouchley Lane has issues, not least because of on-street parking along there, and also the geometry. There's tight bends just before the access to the rugby club. But we're confident the overall width of the highway and the limited movements involved in the storage of caravans aren't going to cause any particular issues.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Graham, could I just add something there?
Yes, certainly. We've lost Mike, but I can see he's still talking. Oh, he's finished now. Go on, Nikki.
Thank you. Just to add something I don't think perhaps came out of my presentation there, and that was that this is a temporary consent. So it is 18 months, and there is no suggestion that they will be seeking for an extension beyond that. It is in response to the current COVID-19 situation. And as we detailed there in the report, we haven't given weight to Ravenbank's claims that this would be the only position. If they needed to seek additional storage facilities after that time frame, they would need to. They have the opportunity to look elsewhere.
Thank you. Councillor Carey, have you got any questions or comments?
Not really, Chair. I'm quite happy with the proposal. One, that it's got suitable conditions to control the use, and two, that it's a temporary permission. And I think, you know, it's incumbent upon us to support the rugby club in this difficult time and do what we can to help. I don't think it should cause much inconvenience to the neighbours, and as I say, it's only for an 18-month period, so I'm quite happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Friend, have you any comments or questions?
No, Chair, happy to support it, just as Councillor Carey said. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm quite happy to support this. I'm happy with what I read in all the papers and the presentations. I think we should be supporting this club. It's a sporting facility, and we can't get enough of that. And it isn't only on about rugby, as you heard in the presentation. Other sports will be brought into it when the development is fully completed, and that can involve the whole community for the betterment. So I would be quite happy to support and even move approval on this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parish.
Yes, Chair, I was just looking at the pictures on the report. Can you just confirm, because in 9.10 it says about it's all well screened. I wasn't quite sure whether that meant just from people passing by on the road or from the fields around. Looks like there is fairly high walling around the sites. Is that around both locations?
The wall is the walled garden that they're up against. One lot against the north wall and one lot against the south.
Yeah, it's just a question. Yeah, it was a question of whether how visible it is from the surrounding countryside, not just from Crouchley Lane.
Yes.
I believe there's likely to be glimpsed views in places. I'm looking at the photographs in front of me. There's likely to be glimpsed views in places into those areas, but there is enclosures around the majority of it. So from public vantage points, it would be not particularly visible.
Yeah, it looks like from the picture, it looks like there might be tops of vans visible over the top of the wall, sort of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Potentially.
Potentially. Thank you.
Right. So everyone's had a chance to
Councillor
speak.
Mundry, did you do Councillor Mundry?
Yeah, no comments or questions, Chair. I'm quite happy to support it, Chair.
I'm really sorry, Karen, I missed you out. My pen must have slipped. The fail-safe system failed. Does anyone else wish to make any further comments? Are any further points of clarification required from officers? Do officers wish to add anything further?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I propose the motion that the application is approved subject to conditions. Will you second that, Councillor Morgan?
I will gladly second it, Chair.
Okay. Are there any amendments to the motion? Okay, then we hand over to the Democratic Services Officer, Abigail, to take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Barr.
Sorry.
Councillor Barr's not taking place.
Councillor Barr's not in it.
It's Councillor Carey first.
Councillor Carey.
4.
Councillor Friend.
4.
Councillor Grime.
4.
Councillor Morgan.
4.
Councillor Mundry.
4.
Councillor Parish.
4.
Councillor Wright.
4.
That's great. Okay, the application has been approved subject to conditions.
Thank you. So
I'm now back with you,
I'm going
Chair.
to welcome back Councillor Barr. Have we heard anything further from Councillor Wheeler?
No, Chair.
No.
All right, then we must continue. So item 2 is application number 2019-35493 This is Marshbrook Close, Rixton with Glazebrook, Warrington, WA3 6LR. This is a reserved matters application for approval of all reserved matters following the grant of outline planning permission 2018 32900 for 4 detached dwellings and garages. The recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Can I invite the Development Manager to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. So the application is for reserved matters for a vacant piece of infill land situated in the green belt adjacent to Hollins Green. Access to the site was established at the outline stage, and the current application seeks reserved matters approval for scale, appearance, landscaping and layout for 4 4-bedroom, 2-storey detached houses. The application is before members tonight because of an objection from Rixton with Glazebrook Parish Council on the basis of developments in the greenbelt and the loss of trees. The application was also subject to 6 objections from local residents as a result of 2 rounds of consultations for reasons of principle, residential amenity, highway safety and ecology, as set out in section 4 of the report. In addition, 1 representation of support has been received, and the details of all these are contained within section 4. As members will be aware, planning law requires that applications for planning permission must be determined in accordance with the development plan unless other material considerations indicate otherwise, and the relevant core strategy policies are contained within section 7 of the report for your information. The key issues in relation to this application are identified as the principle of the proposed development, the design and impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area, and residential amenity, and I'll look at each of these in turn. And firstly, when we're looking at the principle of the proposed development in the context of this reserved matters application, it's mainly by way of background. And the principle has actually been established through the outline consent, which identified that the land was suitable for 4 detached dwellings with garages. And this was confirmed by way of an appeal decision, which was received in February 2019. The appeal decision considered matters in relation to the impact on Greenbelt and found the proposed development of the site with 4 houses to be acceptable and not inappropriate in the Greenbelt, as it constitutes infill within a village. Because the principle of this development has been established at the outline application stage, it cannot be revisited through this reserved matters application. The position of the 4 dwellings in a line would face outwards over a continuation of Marshbrook Close, and is the most obvious layout for buildings on the site and seeks to continue the established building line. The layout and materials respect the location of the surrounding residential properties and ensures that separation distances between existing properties and the proposed dwellings achieves the council's expectations. The site plan on page 49 shows the development, how the development would fit within the grain of the existing developed area, whilst parking would be positioned within integral garages and to the front of the building line. There remains sufficient scope to green the created street trees to the frontage. The layout includes proposals to widen the well-utilised public footpath along the north of the site to a minimum width of 2 metres. In terms of the impact on neighbouring properties, the proposed houses would meet or exceed with the council's minimum recommended interface distances with respect to the adjacent houses. And given compliance with the council's minimum recommended interface distances, which takes into account building heights and changes in levels, the proposal is in accordance with council policies and would not result in detrimental impact on existing neighbours by reason of proximity. In terms of future occupiers, each dwelling is provided with a reasonable amount of private amenity space and parking, including the requirement for electric vehicle charging points. The new houses will comply with the technical standards for the room sizes as advocated by central government. Just to pick up on ecology and biodiversity, which is referred to within the report, and just a matter of clarification for the benefit of members, that was also considered by the inspector at the outline stage. It was initially a reason for refusal associated with the outline planning permission, and at the time when we made that decision we had insufficient information to determine the impacts on ecology and biodiversity, and during the course of the appeal the applicant submitted the necessary reports to allow that to be comprehensively considered. So the principle of those kind of impacts have been assessed. And what we're looking at now is the detail that sits behind those. And as you can see from the report there, we have consulted with Greater Manchester Ecology Unit, and they are satisfied with the measures that are being put in place. In conclusion, then, the application reflects that proposed in outline in terms of the application description for for detached dwellings with garages. It respects the character of the surrounding area as well as and provides a suitable level of amenity for existing local residents and those in the future. Ecological impacts are demonstrated as being mitigated for, and there are considered to be no adverse impacts on highway safety as a result of the sufficient car parking within curtilage provided. The application is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. I will just point out, Chair, that there is an update note associated with this application. Just a couple of minor points to point out. There's two typographical errors corrected in paragraphs 9.20 and 9.28. Orchard Brow Cottages should read Brow Farm Cottage, and condition 6 duplicates the requirements of condition 4 and can be deleted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki. I can confirm that we've received additional written representations from Anna Mather, Mr. and Mrs. Garlick, Sam Spence, Mr. and Mrs. Whelan. These are all in favour of the application because of the trees along the northern footpath. And I've included them all because they give you a clear picture of the residents' concerns. But also in contrast to the representations received previously, which are in your notes, because they were mostly objections, but these are mostly in favour. So you've got a balance there to consider. We've also got representation in favour from the agent for the applicant, and this answers to some extent the question raised about the long-term management of the northern boundary where the path is. So for these reasons, I've allowed all 5 of these representations in favour. We also have a representation against from Rixton with Glazebrook Parish Council. I'd like to point out, to clarify the situation, that these last 2 representations from the agent and the PC also write about the building on the Greenbelt land. However, they also make points about the current application on reserved matters, and that's the relevant part. I want to stress, especially to any listeners, as Nikki said, the decision to build 4 houses on this piece of Greenbelt has already been made on appeal by government inspectors, and we can't revisit that. So any views that anyone may have on building on Greenbelt land have no bearing on tonight's decision. So excuse me for repeating that again. 4 houses can be built on this land. We're deciding on the usual reserved matters, the size, the appearance, the layout, the tree works and so on. If committee members feel you must comment briefly on the previous decision, please make it clear it will not be affecting tonight's vote on your part. So I'll now ask members of the committee to confirm that they have read and understood these representations. Councillor Barr.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Carey.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Friend.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Morgan.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Mundry.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Parish.
Confirmed, Chair.
Councillor Wright.
Confirmed, Chair.
And I've also read and understood the representations. I confirm that they will be included in the minutes of this meeting. And I'll now invite comments and questions from members to the officers in turn. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think this is a difficult application. I can see, and I am sympathetic with the arguments for the removal of the trees and the new planting scheme. The problem that we have is that one person's nuisance tree is another person's vital bit of green heritage and a long-standing feature of the green belt. And we've got to choose between these two sets of diametrically opposed views. This isn't the first time we've been confronted with this situation. In fact, we're confronted with it quite regularly. I know that I am a great campaigner for supplementary planning documents, but I noticed that there are other local authorities that have supplementary planning documents on trees and development. And because trees are such an important feature of the Warrington townscape and the semi-rural areas around and of new developments, I think that we should possibly consider when the policy team has the time of actually writing a Warrington specific trees policy, and that would make it quite clear to developers what they're expected to do, at what stage they can take trees down, when they can expect trees to be removed, when they can't expect trees to be removed. Because at the moment, I think that we've got a little bit of a Wild West. We've got developers who cut down trees before they're allowed to. We've got trees that people would desperately like to see protected, which are a major nuisance to the people living immediately by them. And I'm not sure that we've got good enough policies for that. I'm very grateful for the clear report that we've had from the officers tonight, and I'm certainly in favour of approving this application. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Carey.
Yes, Chair, I think I concur with Councillor Barr on the need for a policy. Trees are nice and we all like to see them, but sometimes they can be in the wrong place and not suitable for their location. But in this case, the neighbours are quite happy to see the northern footpath improved and for fresh planting to be put in. So it seems like a nice little infill development. I'm quite happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Friend.
Yes, I concur with the last two speakers and I'm quite happy to support it, Chair. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Morgan.
Yes, I can't add anything to that, Chair. I concur with my colleagues and I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Mundry.
Yes, I'm happy to support it, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Parish.
Just got one query. In one of the original objections, there was mention about bins being left on a public footpath. Didn't quite follow that because presumably the refuse wagons will be going all the way round to collect them from the front of the properties.
Yeah, I think it came up in the report. Can you clarify that, Nikki?
So there is a bin store proposed to serve the properties, and if you look at the plan on page 49, there's an 8-bin store to the south of the site. You see it's in blue.
Not blue on mine.
Not printed in colour. So
that's to the south.
To the south. So the circles. There's 8 circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the bin stores.
That's the bin store serving the development.
So at the front. So I didn't understand. Right, I didn't understand the objection about bins on public footpaths. Then, so that's sounds like there is no problem with bins on public footpaths, is there?
Yeah. There's thousands of them.
No, I mean in this development, I meant there would not be a problem with this.
Councillor Wright, have you any comments or questions?
No, Chair.
Right. Does anyone wish to make any further comments?
I appreciate Bob's desire for supplementary planning documents all over the place, but I think with the I don't know how many thousands of trees we've got, and to actually come up with a policy which will fit every situation seems unlikely to me. In this case, they've obviously just grown and grown and grown, and for the residents on where these trees obviously cut out light to their houses, because on the south side of Orchard Brow, I can see why they want them removed, and especially if they're breaking up the pavement, breaking up the roots are breaking up the footpath. So I've got no objection to it at all.
Thank you. Any further comments? Any further points of clarification from officers?
No, thank you, Chair.
Right, I propose the motion that the application is approved subject to conditions. Are you prepared to second that, Councillor Carey?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the motion?
We can't make a comment about the parish council bringing this to us when most of the things they've said are not relevant at all.
Oh, don't then.
Okay. I thought to mention it though.
Well, I think they felt pretty strongly about those points, so you could see why they felt a need to bring them up again.
Yeah, but we're all redundant, weren't they?
It's not really a part of the motion. So
Or to get it in though.
Chair, not really
can I hand
relevant.
over to Democratic Services Officer to take the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Barr,
For.
Councillor Carey,
For.
Councillor Friend,
For.
Councillor Grime,
For.
Councillor Morgan,
For.
Councillor Mundry,
For.
Councillor Parish,
For.
and Councillor Wright.
For.
Okay, Chair, and that has been approved.
Thank you. So we come to agenda item 5, the appeal decisions summary. The report is attached to your agenda starting on page 53. 4 appeals have been decided and 3 received since the previous report. Can I ask if the planning officer wishes to make any additional comment?
No, thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions from members? Councillor Carey?
No, Chair. No question.
Councillor Friend?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Morgan?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Mundry?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Parish?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Wright?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Barr?
Just a quick comment. I think that these reports are really helpful because they show the robustness of our processes, the costs are not being awarded against us, that a fair number of the appeals are being dismissed, and the way that we handle matters is not being seriously questioned. So they're on marginal applications. So I find these reports really helpful, and I think they reflect well on our planning service.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations to our planners. Any further points of clarification from officers? Right, I propose the appeal summary report is accepted. Will you second that, Councillor Barr?
Happy to second that.
Right, will the Democratic Services Officer take the vote?
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Barr,
For.
Councillor Carey,
For.
Councillor Friend,
For.
Councillor Grime,
For.
Councillor Morgan,
For.
Councillor Mundry,
For.
Councillor Parish,
For.
and Councillor Wright.
For.
Okay, that's great.
So the report is accepted.
Accepted, yes, sorry, Chair.
Yes. Okay, so that is the end of the meeting. I see it is 18:45. This must be a record. And even so, I am happy to declare the meeting closed. And thank you to everyone for their attention and work.
Thank you, Chair, and good night.
Thank you,
Chair.
Chair.
Good night, everybody.